Did Bobby Fish attempt to get Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly to leave All Elite Wrestling with him and rejoin WWE? We're going to talk about that, plus Bobby Fish's next wrestling venture in Impact Wrestling. We've got the results from last night's edition of Rampage Grand Slam. AEW in the UK, when are they planning their first UK show, specifically in London? And Saraya, is she cleared to wrestle or not? We're going to talk about all this and more in today's AEW News. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling, especially after last night's edition of Rampage Grand Slam, especially with all of this WWE, AEW stuff going on. There's so much to get into today, so let's get right into it. Let's start with Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish has made a lot of headlines recently, hasn't he, with his comments about CM Punk, with obviously leaving the company and now debuting in Impact Wrestling. There's so much to get into it. Okay, so first of all, let's start off about Bobby Fish trying to persuade Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly to go to WWE or back to WWE with him, despite everyone being under AEW contracts. This is wild. So, Bobby Fish reportedly attempted to convince his Undisputed Era stablemates to leave AEW behind for WWE. As noted by the Wrestling Observer's Ryan Frederick on the site's message board, the now former All Elite talent was said to have been trying to get Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly to ask for their respective AEW releases, but the duo reportedly told the Undisputed Era teammates the answer was no. This is what Frederick had to say, quote, "I posted it in the Bobby Fish thread, but I know Fish was trying to get them to Cole and Kyle to ask for their releases to go back to WWE, and they both told him no. It's possible Cole may have clued in Tony Khan in. If he did, I doubt he was the only one. I'm sure Swerve Strickland, was also one of them who did so as well." And again, these are the stories we have heard. We have heard that since the new regime came into place in WWE, specifically Triple H, he's been reaching out to a lot of former WWE talent, irrespective of whether they're under contract to other companies or not. And some of the names we had heard about, Malachi Black, we're going to touch on him in a second. But now we know that they probably reached out to Adam Cole. They probably reached out to Kyle O'Reilly. Maybe they reached out to Bobby Fish. We don't know. But they decided to say no. And not only did they say no, they told Tony Khan, which has prompted this reaction from Khan and AEW, sending legal letters to WWE, as well as publicly calling out Triple H and the company for possible contract tampering, which, to be honest, is what it is. That is exactly what it is. And I know for a fact, WWE, if the shoe was on the other foot, they really wouldn't be happy about all of this. So, as I mentioned, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, they weren't the only ones. Let's get into Malachi Black as well, because Malachi Black was reportedly not the only AEW talent that WWE sent out feelers to about a potential return to the company recently. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, the likes of Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and the aforementioned Swerve Strickland were also contacted by the WWE's new talent relations department headed by Paul Triple H Levesque. All three of those wrestlers, besides Black, were part of Triple H's version of NXT a few years ago. Of course, Aleister Black was part of the Black and Gold brand under Triple H as well, the NXT champion. Fightful has also confirmed the Wrestling Observer's earlier report suggesting that Malachi Black had indicated to contacts in the WWE that he wished he was still there. Although Black is effectively done with AEW, he is not eligible to compete for WWE for an extended period of time, likely due to a non-compete clause in the conditional release granted to him by AEW recently. As far as other AEW talents hoping to return to WWE, several AEW higher-ups of the, quote, "if they want to go, let them" mentality per Fightful sources. So by all accounts, those in AEW are a little bit like, well, if they want to leave, then they should leave. We know AEW's roster is very bloated, so it might not be a bad thing if they do leave the company, and it kind of streamlines the process a little bit. Now, finally, besides Black, Strickland, and FTR, WWE reportedly reached out to another unnamed top talent in August. This name has supposedly been with the company since the start, and Fightful's AEW sources were surprised to learn that WWE reached out to them. Now, we don't know who that is, and I could sit here and speculate on names that have been with, AEW since the start, and it's surprising that WWE would reach out to them. Names that come to mind, of course, are Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho did intimate that it was him, and he told Tony Khan. We don't know how accurate that is. But I also think of another name. I think of Pac. I think of the All-Atlantic champion and 1/3 of the AEW Trios World Champions at the moment, because when Fightful's AEW sources there say they were surprised to learn that WWE reached out to them, I think of Pac because Pac's a name. Chris Jericho possibly going back to WWE wouldn't be massively surprising. I mean, he's very much Team AEW, and he waves the flag of AEW, and has been with the company since the start, and is quite responsible for really putting it on the map. Yes, he didn't found the company, but he was the first world champion, and he really helped elevate that company and get a good TV deal as well, with the ratings and the results of him being the world champion at the time. But I think that name could be Pac because we know how badly it ended with WWE and Pac, or Neville, Adrian Neville, whatever you want to call him. But at the same time, we know the relationship that Pac has with Triple H. He was a former NXT champion. At a period of time, he was the longest reigning NXT champion of all time. So that is a very realistic possibility. Again, looks very unlikely that Pac or Chris Jericho's going to be going back to WWE anytime soon. But as I mentioned earlier this month, at the post-All-Out Media Scrum, AEW President Tony Khan lashed out at WWE for allegedly tampering with talents in his company, emphasizing that he was not going to sit back and take this shit anymore. Khan also addressed the tampering charges during a mandatory talent meeting held in the lead-up to the All-Out pay-per-view in Chicago. At the time, Dave Meltzer reported that the AEW talents who were contacted by WWE referred to the contact to their attorney and informed AEW management of WWE reaching out to them. Furthermore, AEW's chief legal officer Megha Parekh had reportedly sent an email to WWE co-CEO Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan to warn them about the consequences of contract tampering. And I'm surprised, honestly. I am surprised how brazen WWE have been about this. This happens all the time in pro wrestling, don't get me wrong. The idea that companies don't talk to talents whilst they're under contract to another company is laughable because it happens all the time. And I guess that's the difficulty in all of this, is that it does happen and sometimes it can be difficult to prove. But in this case, it's sometimes it happens on a case-by-case basis. It happens to one person, and then they go, well, it's one person, is what it is. I mean, Jeff Hardy's a great example. It was widely documented. Even Jeff Hardy himself on camera said that he had been speaking to AEW way before he was legally allowed to, and WWE at the time just sort of washed their hands of it and said, whatever, we don't really care. But now, with WWE being so brazen about it, going after Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Swerve Strickland, possibly Jericho, possibly Pac. I mean, the list is FTR. There's like 6 or 7 talents there, all under long-term contracts to AEW, and you would think there's going to be a paper trail there. And if that is the case, then what leg would WWE have to stand on? And again, if it was one person, AEW would probably weigh up, is it really worth going after WWE for one person? But when it's 6 or 7, that's a lot of people and a lot of money possibly to be won by AEW. So I think WWE might have been a bit lucky to get off with a warning, just a warning letter of be careful, we're on to you. As far as the Bobby Fish stuff, Bobby Fish is just, at the moment, it's pretty wild, to be honest. He said all that stuff about CM Punk, which some of it was justified, some of it was just weird posturing from a guy in his mid to late 40s. I didn't really get that. It felt like a guy that was running out of options as well. And when he left AEW, it was somewhat surprising that people said, and this was my kind of take on it at the time, it was, maybe it's just because Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, they're out of action. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega now suspended. That Undisputed Elite versus Elite match isn't going to happen for ages, so they decided, you know what, Bobby Fish's contract's up, we'll leave it. And I thought that made the most sense. But now, in reality, they couldn't come to terms on a new contract because he got ratted out. He got ratted out by Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and others saying, Bobby Fish asked me if I wanted to leave. I've got 4 or 5 years left on the deal here, or 3, 4, however many years they've got left on the contract. And he's asking me I should request my release and go back to WWE. And I'm not doing this because I'm throwing my teammate under the bus. I'm doing this because I want to stay out of legal trouble. What's going on? And then I wouldn't be surprised if there was a contract offer on the table and then AEW goes, no, thank you. Why would we have someone like that in the company? It is wild. It's wild. Now, speaking of Fish, he's now in Impact Wrestling. He made his debut last night at Victory Road. He's ready to make an impact. He made his debut, as I mentioned, at Victory Road. Addressing the live crowd, Fish started by saying, "Is it hot in here? I think it might just be all the heat that is on me lately." Fish said that he was surprised. He's never thought himself as a controversial guy or a problem. He said, quote, "After doing this for more than 20 years, I'm not here for the bullshit," said Fish. He noted that Impact can't fire him because he doesn't work for Impact. But even though he doesn't work for Impact, he has kept an eye on the locker room since he's never been afraid to call someone less than legit. The Impact locker room is full of legit dudes, of course, referencing CM Punk. So Bobby Fish, I guess, is now trying to capitalize on this notoriety that he has by being in Impact Wrestling. Yeah, good for him, and look, it's smart by Impact. Get some guy with a bit of notoriety at the moment, but what a play by Bobby Fish. He tried to get Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly to leave AEW and go to WWE with him. They said no. They told on him, and now he's in Impact. No disrespect to Impact, of course. I've covered Impact a long time here on the channel, but his behavior recently has been odd. MJF, how much money is MJF's contract? Well, of course, we know that MJF returned to AEW All Out earlier this month, and he's been bragging about the new contract that Tony Khan has given him in order to make him come back to the company. The 3-time Dynamite Diamond Ring winner has made it clear that he has not signed an extension, but he has received a major pay raise. And according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, the new deal sees him earn more than $1 million each year. And while a specific number wasn't given, it is clear that what MJF has been saying in his promos is very much true, according to Dave Meltzer. When he first revealed himself as the winner of the Casino Ladder match, thanks to the help of Stokely Hathaway's faction, The Firm, MJF played a voice recording of a phone call he had with Khan. The AEW president said in that conversation he would pay him more, but at the time the exact figure was bleeped out. Since then, he has refused to reveal the number. Despite the pay raise, MJF is still teasing the idea that he could leave AEW when his contract expires on January 1st, 2024. He has made it clear he will be joining whichever company is willing to pay him the most money in what he is labeling the bidding war of 2024. Apart from New Japan Pro Wrestling, in which, of course, he will never work. I believe this to be accurate, and it's funny how these things worked out, because I recall after the chaos of Double or Nothing, after the plane ticket stuff, after all that kind of craziness, it was reported at the time that the feeling was that MJF had signed a new deal with AEW and he had received a substantial pay raise, and he was off television as part of the storyline. He came to, Dynamite, cut the work shoot promo, and then disappeared for a while, but that was all part of the plan. I find it really difficult to believe that he has signed a new deal without an extension. I think that's bad business by Tony Khan, and I don't think Khan would do that. And again, if you trace it back to those reports prior to Double or Nothing, when MJF was having those issues with his contract and feeling that he was underpaid, I believe he said on several occasions that, or it was reported certainly in several occasions, that he wasn't under the impression that I can't just sign more money and have the same kind of length of my deal. I would understand that would require an extension. So I believe he is being partially true. He's doing what he does best. He's weaving in and out of truth and fiction. I think what he's done is signed a new deal, a substantially improved deal for improved terms, but I think that has to come with an extended deal. I think that has to come with more time. It has to. So I think either Meltzer's not particularly right there, or certain elements of it haven't got out, because I think the long-term plan is, again, to have another storyline that blurs the lines between fiction and reality come 2024. And I think that the plan is for him to leave the company at that time, but then come back. I think that's what they're trying to do. I might be wrong, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, last night it was the Rampage Grand Slam show on TNT, and we saw a Battle Royale, and a familiar face has earned a shot at the AEW World Championship. We saw the Golden Ticket Battle Royal, where the winner would earn a shot at the world title on October 18th episode of AEW Dynamite. Now, they featured a few noteworthy returns, especially that of Brian Cage. He competed in the match, and in doing so, he actually wrestled on AEW television for the first time since October 2021. Now, he has been at Supercard of Honor and Death Before Dishonor for Ring of Honor, but he has been largely absent for AEW. Lance Archer also competed in the contest. He previously had a run in New Japan as part of the G1 Climax. Dalton Castle was another noteworthy participant, but in the end, Hangman Page won the match by last eliminating Rude. Caboose. Now, this means, again, as I mentioned, he will be challenging Jon Moxley on the October 18 episode of AEW Dynamite. I said this at the time, why I can't imagine that Hangman Page was originally planned to win this match, or this match might not have even been planned at this point of time, but I can't imagine that Hangman Page was scheduled to win this match while CM Punk was the AEW World Champion, because given the heat, given the friction, and given the fact that CM Punk, like on live television, called him out when he knew he wasn't going to appear, I would be stunned if CM Punk would have worked with Hangman Page and vice versa. So it's funny, isn't it? It is ironic that one of Punk's grievances was about Hangman Page, going into business for himself, and he's challenging for the World Championship pretty soon. Funny how those things works out. And that's not to say that Hangman Page is completely in the wrong and he's not being... I just think that there should have been an element of what, is this the right reward? That's maybe the best way of putting it for Hangman Page. I don't know. But he's going to be facing Jon Moxley very soon for the AEW World Championship. I'm sure the match is going to be very good. Speaking of last night as well, we saw the Great Muta appear. Yes, a fantastic surprise on Rampage Grand Slam. On the second night of the Grand Slam event, Sting and Darby Allin faced Brody King and Buddy Matthews, in a no disqualification match on the show. At the end of the match, Matthews had Sting handcuffed and seated in a chair just as he went to hit the legend with a baseball bat. The lights went out, they came back on, and the Great Muta came to the ring. While he initially approached Sting, he dropped Matthews with a dragon screw and spit his iconic green mist in his face. Sting then proceeded to pin Matthews with a Scorpion Death drop. Of course, Muta has held, and he's also known as Keiji Muta, of course, has held numerous titles around the world. He's a 4-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, former WCW World Tag Team Champion, former GHC Heavyweight Champion, among many other accolades. He is currently on a retirement tour. He's going to compete in his last match as the Great Muta on January 22nd, 2023. Of course, he has a huge history with Sting as well, from his time in WCW back in the early 90s, mid-90s as well. And Sting will actually participate in the Great Muta's last match. As I mentioned, Muta surprisingly appeared during the show. And in a digital exclusive after the match, Sting discussed his history with Muta, noting they have wrestled each other all over the world. And Pro Wrestling Noah subsequently announced that the Icon will return to Japan to be part of the Great Muta's final bye-bye. The Legend's last match is the Great Muta on January 22nd. The event will be held at the Yokohama Arena. As of this recording, it's unclear whether they're going to team up together, they're going to face each other, if Sting's just going to be in the corner, we don't know. Sting and Muta, as I mentioned, have faced each other so many times during the time with WCW and New Japan's crossovers in the 90s. They previously faced each other, as I mentioned, at the WCW New Japan Super Show 1. They joined forces to beat the Steiner Brothers at the WCW New Japan Super Show 2 as well. They've just got so much history, and it was just such a cool moment. It was a cool moment seeing Muta out there with Sting once again in 2022. Who thought we'd see that again? And Sting being a part of his final match is pretty awesome as well. We also saw Action Bronson last night make his AEW in-ring debut, and he did a pretty good job. Hook and Action Bronson proved themselves to be a successful pairing on Rampage Grand Slam. The reigning FTW champion teamed up with the popular rapper to face off against Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. In front of the New York crowd, the fan-favorite duo mostly dominated the action. Menard and Parker ganged up on Hook, but Bronson made the hot tag to help tip the scales back in his team's favor. He hit an emphatic pounce and showcased his strength. In the end, Hook and Bronson locked Menard and Parker in the Red Room, and both men tapped out. You know what? Again, I thought they did a good job. And it was fun. That's what it is. And again, and I know people get angry and think about celebrities being involved and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. And it was fun. And if the crowd's cheering, then who cares? I thought they did a good job. AEW in the UK, let's talk about this. Yes, it obviously speaks very close to home to me, but AEW now has a time frame for a possible event at Fulham's home stadium, Craven Cottage. Of course, Fulham are owned by AEW president Tony Khan. It's led to many to expect that we're going to see an AEW show at Craven Cottage at some point in the future. Dave Meltzer has noted in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter that AEW are targeting next summer for their first official show at the venue, saying, quote, "It looks like next summer for an AEW UK debut at Fulham's home Craven Cottage." Look, obviously, it's a gorgeous part of London, West London, right on the River Thames. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's an old stadium. It's not big. It's, I think, just over 20,000. But it's recently been renovated. It's recently been modernised, updated. The Khans have put a lot of money into Fulham, especially the stadium particularly. And it makes sense that they would do a show there. West London, beautiful stadium, as I mentioned, great location. Don't have to pay for it as well. So Looking at the schedule, obviously they can't really do it, until next summer really, because there's football matches involved in there, and even the break for the World Cup at the end of the year. You're not going to do a show in the UK in December without a roof, and Craven Cottage does not have a roof. So it would appear that it will be next summer that we'll have an AEW Stadium show in the UK. Finally, of course, Saraya made her AEW debut this past Wednesday at Dynamite Grand Slam. It's led to a lot of people discussing, is she going to be wrestling? The presentation that AEW gave of her on Wednesday suggested that she could indeed be wrestling for the first time since being forced into retirement at the end of 2017, early 2018. However, in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported that as of very recently, the former WWE Divas champion had not been cleared to wrestle. She has not competed in the ring since a live event in December of 2017, where she suffered her career-ending injury in a 6-woman tag team match. And while she did appear in different roles for WWE after that, the company had a rule where nobody could be allowed to touch her. It was notable, of course, this week that she did not get physical during her AEW debut, but that could be simply because they're trying to save off on that physicality for the future. Why waste the physicality in the debut moment? Why not save it for later and get a big pop there as well? As I mentioned, she's been put on the website with a win-loss record, suggesting that indeed she is going to wrestle. It was reported prior to her signing with AEW that she was open to wrestling again and did hope that she could eventually get cleared by her doctors. Now, in an update from this story, Saraya has actually tweeted as well, saying, quote, "Ignore the dirt sheet clickbait, see you Wednesday," suggesting she might have some news when it comes to wrestling. I think you have to read into the words that Dave Meltzer has said there. He said, as of recently, she has not been cleared to wrestle. That was recently. And she had talks with AEW all over the summer. And maybe initially, when she had talks with AEW, she wasn't cleared. Who's to say in the last couple of weeks she hasn't been cleared? Who's to say she didn't get cleared on Monday? Who knows, right? And as I say, when I spoke about her debut too, I don't want her just getting cleared by her doctor or one doctor. I want her being cleared by her doctors and AEW's doctors. Ultimately, we want her to be safe. She's only 30. So heaven forbid anything bad happens to her in the ring, but hopefully she does get cleared and hopefully she can wrestle again. If she can, it's a huge boost to the women's division. Ultimately though, as I've mentioned several times when it comes to AEW, it doesn't matter the talent they have. What matters is the booking. What happens is the presentation. What matters is AEW wanting to have a successful women's division, giving them time, giving the fans a reason to care and tune in. You can't do that by having one match that lasts 10 minutes per week on Dynamite. You need to have multiple matches. You need to have main events of TV shows, of pay-per-views, big pay-per-views. That's what you need to have a successful women's division. And look, Saraya was instrumental in the women's revolution in WWE. She really started that off in NXT with Emma. Obviously had names, groundbreaking names in the past, but certainly the more modern revolution that we've seen. People talk about Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Bayley, but it started from Paige and Emma in NXT. Ask William Regal. So maybe Saraya can do it again, but importantly, you have to have the want from the talent, from the executives, and from the writers to do that. So we'll have to wait and see. But there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.